I never met a man I did not like. Will Rogers. Easy to see why that man was so popular, isn't it? He always looked for the good in people. Reminds me of Abraham Lincoln, who once said, "If you look for the bad in people expecting to find it, you surely will." And I'm willing to bet good old Will probably read that and thought just the opposite. If I look for the good in people, expecting to find it, I surely will. And those quotes kind of remind me of back in high school. And had a hard time understanding why I could like Jack and Steve, and yet Jack and Steve didn't like each other. Couldn't understand what's going on. Can't you find the good in this relationship? Can't you find the good in each other? You both have me for your friends. Didn't make sense. Come on, you guys should get along. You both got something in common. It's me. Of course, now I understand why conflict occurs on many levels. And I like the idea of always looking for the good in a person. But I've been on a journey for 27 years now. And it didn't take me long to find out that there is a small group of people who don't have any good in them. They're the ones that are keeping us in hell. They're not the ones that created it, I don't believe, but they're opportunistic and they're taking advantage of the situation and they're keeping us here. And what's interesting is that they are a reflection of us, and you know I talk about these people all the time. It's a big part of my story. We have to understand how important our health is, but you have to understand how the world works, because it's all built around the fact that we don't have our health. And this knowledge is being kept from us. And there is nothing good about these people. Now, it's a safe statement to say I've never met a man or a woman or child I didn't like. That's because you haven't met the guys behind the curtain. And behind that curtain, that's the key. We don't even really know how many layers there are to this onion. How many curtains are there we have to go to find the one pulling the strings and making sure this world stays where we're at? In the dark ages, pain and suffering, we didn't come to this planet to grow spiritually. That's spiritual mumbo jumbo. Now, when I say spiritual mumbo jumbo, that doesn't mean I believe spirituality is mumbo jumbo. I'm saying parts of it is mumbo jumbo. And if you don't understand that there are psychopaths who control our belief systems, then you can't really understand how they've infiltrated every belief system and put some mumbo jumbo in there so that nothing changes. So I believe the chances are every person you ever meet, you're going to find some good in them. And that's because psychopaths are good liars. They're good actors. They have to be if they're born psychopaths. They know there's something wrong, and the only way they can keep from being in trouble is by copying us, mimicking us. Watch what we do and they copy us. So yeah, you can see some good in people, but it's an act. And I'm sure Will Rogers never encountered a sociopath. Otherwise, he might have been dead by now, or he wouldn't have lived as long as he did. He would have died because of them. So the sociopaths, not that many of them out there, and they're usually the serial killers. They're the nightmares, the monsters in our nightmare. So yeah, if you don't get to meet those guys very often and live to tell the story, do you? And the thing is, these guys only kill a couple dozen people, whereas these psychopaths are responsible for killing millions of people. The guys behind the curtains are killing millions of people in every century. Not even sure what the numbers would be last century when you looked at how many people were murdered because of these psychopaths. Because their MO is divide and conquer. Their MO is they swim in chaos and they create chaos everywhere they go. They hire shills to do their bidding. And then some people just don't have a brain, and they've had so much bullshit bombarded in their brain that they fall along with those shills, because that's what they believe. But it's all intended for one thing: chaos, distraction. It's all a distraction. I've said before many times in my videos, if you're not going upstream and getting reconnected and being the best that you can be, then you're being distracted. And some things we have to take time and look at, don't we? But we've got to at least go upstream and play our role. And then as far as the downstream works, if that's your forte, I say get out there and help us do this. There's a lot of things we have to do downstream. We've got to take back the airwaves. We got to take back control of our money, printing our own money. There's no good in these people. 1 to 4% of our population are psychopaths. And you can look and as hard as you can to find some good in them. Even if you expect to find it, all you're going to find is an act if you were unfortunate enough to encounter one of these sick people. But remember, 1 to 4%, we're encountering them all the time. And some of you guys probably know who they are. They're very predictable. They don't know how to act in situations. They can play the role, and if you're on a message board, cut and paste a bunch of crap and make it look like they said it. But they don't have any original thought that shows any empathy. So when you're born a psychopath, you have no empathy, you keep everyone else sick, is there any good in you at all? Do you love your mother? Well, hey, the guy loves his mother. I can find something good in him. In fact, all of this reminds me of one of my favorite childhood movies growing up. Came out in 1960. Haley Mills was in it. Pollyanna. Pollyanna, what a great little movie. She had the Glad game. You remember the Glad game? Always got to find something to be glad about. Goes back to the concept that with adversity comes virtues, and with prosperity comes vices. When you're down and out, that's when you got to count your blessings, right? But of course, the great thing about that movie and how it relates to these quotes is that her dad was a preacher, and something happened to her family, and she had to have someone else raise her and moved to a new city. And the preacher there was preaching brimstone and damnation, and the whole town couldn't stand the guy. They all couldn't stand Sunday. Because, oh my God, it's going to be Sunday. This guy ruins the only day we have off. And of course, that's where the Glad game comes in. Just Google the Glad game, Pollyanna, and you'll see this little short minute and 40-some second clip. Funny, really is funny. In fact, I got to share this real quick because they're talking about, before the food even settles, and this one big lady was saying, got a hot ball of, how does she call it? A hot ball of food, or hot ball, what were those words she just said? A hot ball of mass in her belly or something like that. I can't ever remember hearing that expression, but we still got a hot ball of food in our belly while we're being preached by this guy. And of course, the problem is that this guy was looking for the bad. And it was funny, the conversation when you watch the end of the movie where Pollyanna was saying, oh, you remind me of my dad. You have that same look that he has. And it looks like you're having the same problem. That he too was looking for the bad and preaching that way too. And that's when he realized that he should start looking for the good. And that there are these glad passages in the Bible. There are 800 glad texts in that good old book, according to Pollyanna. Darn, that little fly is really buzzing hard around me. And of course, that's when that quote came out. Except they changed it slightly. When you look for the bad in mankind, expecting to find it, you'll surely will. At the end of the movie, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? The preacher, Carl Mold. Funny. Because he realized what he was doing. People couldn't stand his preaching because he was always looking for the bad. Now, it brings up a good point. If you look for the bad in mankind, expecting to find it, you surely will. You don't even have to expect to find it. You can't help but notice there's something wrong with us. And that's the whole part of my message. It's a symptom. It's an effect. We're creating it. We made a mistake a long time ago. We're still making it. Now we're at a point where if you want to find bad in people, you won't have to look very hard. Because most of us are damaged. Most of us don't know how to live. Most of us have an abnormally low biophoton level. Most of us have a serpent in our body. In effect, every one of us pretty much has a great excuse for being a complete idiot. One of the best lessons I learned by taking a solid food vacation, once I took my whole life to another level, and I was a great guy before I did it, but everything about my life went up to another level, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, communally. Everything. It's like I crawled out of a rut, because I didn't know I had a 20-pound cesspool in me. I didn't know I had enough of that sunlight energy that really made me feel one. I could already intellectualize about it, so that was I had to step up on a lot of people. But we shouldn't have to think about it. And that's the great thing I realized by doing this. When you take a solid food vacation and you go through this huge transformation, you can't help but wonder, my gosh, what would happen if the entire planet could go through the experience I just went through? That's when you start getting excited. That's what the hero's journey is all about. We got to stay positive. Some people, it's harder to find the good in them because they're hurting. They're damaged. They got a serpent in their belly. They're suffering from hypoheliosis. They don't have enough of their sixth sense. It's why we suffer so much as a species. We're supposed to have six senses, and we're working on 5 and a fraction. Makes it harder for us. I did pretty good with 5 senses. I look back on my life and I'm proud of every bit of it. I've been a good man, good boy, good child, I had a good mom. She taught me good values. And she used reverse psychology. And I knew it too. John, you're too smart to do anything stupid. You're right, Mom. Good mom. Gotta miss her. Would not be the man I am today. If it was not for my mom. She gave me the flexibility to grow. And it's been 25 years. In 2 days, in 2 years, she would be 100. She should still be around now. This is why I'm so motivated. There's too much suffering on this planet. We didn't come here to grow spiritually. We're supposed to stop it. I'm tired of watching people I love die prematurely, suffer. The amount of suffering on this planet right now is insane. And we can do something about it. We can make that change. All it takes is for you guys to keep doing what you're doing. Tell everybody you know. They are their own hero. They can change what they're doing. They can be a better person. They can make it easier for people to find the good in them because it's already in us. We don't let anything in. We let it out. We get rid of that serpent. We've got the goodness in us deep down. But we're missing one of our senses. Most of us have so much waste matter in us, we don't understand how it's affecting us because it was put in so slowly. But that's what makes the solid food vacation so exciting. Because you get rid of it so fast, you feel an amazing transformation. It's so exciting. Remember, I've done this over 1,200 days in the last 25 years. Got rid of that serpent a long time ago. So I don't get to experience the thrill that you guys do if you've never done it. I guarantee you, my friends. When you finally do this for the first time and you're getting rid of that old stuff for the first time, nothing is better in the world, I guarantee you. That's why I know. I've done it too many times. I coach too many people. And they all say the same thing. That was a treat.